listening to Footscray Live.
Welcome everyone, live from Footscray City College, you are listening to Footscray Live. My name is Marley Hawke and here with me today we have Julie Black. This is the future,
You're just like, this is the future show.
Is it future show or the hot topic show?
Just futures, yeah.
Yeah. Should I go from
the
the
start
top?
again.
You didn't introduce us, Marley.
Yeah.
Oh. Welcome everyone, live from Footscray City College. You're listening to Footscray Live. My name is Marley Hawke, and with me today we have Julie Black. This is the Future Show. Our panellists today are Yasmin and Jolie. Joining us on the Future Show today is Julie Black, Year 11 and 12 Careers and Vet Coordinator. How are you today?
Good, thank you, Marley.
Now, what is your role here at Footscray City College, and how did you get into it?
It's a bit of a journey, I think, and that's what everybody's career is. It's a journey. I started here in 1995 at Footscray City College and worked mainly, I was a phys ed teacher, health, outdoor ed, and I really enjoyed being involved in student management. So I was year level coordinator for a number of years, sub-school manager, and worked for a long time in VCE as in the senior school sub-school manager position. And as things turned out, I changed to, got into the careers area because I love working with young people and helping them. I have a bit of an interest in counselling as well, so I have done some student wellbeing counselling as well in my over the years. And so the last 8 years or so, I've been the Year 11 and 12 careers and vet coordinator, so helping students to find their pathways and find what's available for them in their next step on the road to the future, as the name of your show is.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying that you've done different things before doing career pathways, did you always know you wanted to work with youth and children and teenagers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think when I was at high school myself, I taught swimming and I loved playing sports and I did some coaching and things like that. So I enjoyed working with young people. But it was mainly my passion for sports that led me to the direction of becoming a physical education teacher. In fact, I was going to be a physiotherapist, but I changed my mind in the end. And so, yeah, I've always enjoyed working with young people and helping them and seeing them grow and flourish and take on challenges, and very rewarding position.
How do you feel the new changes to the school? Do you think they're going to benefit like the school and stuff?
The new changes in terms of the merger?
Yeah, like in terms of
the new precinct and things like that.
And in terms of linking opportunities and the different locations, the feeder schools, feeding particularly into a senior campus means more students, which means more subject choices, which means more happier students, I guess, because they've got more opportunities. The links with the community, links with Victoria University, links with local industry, particularly important in creating relationships so that our students can engage into things like work experience and work placement, and that sense of community is very important.
Once it changes to where it's 7 to 9 at the Gilmore Girls precinct and then it's 10 to 12 here, how do you think you're going to work through having to switch? Because I know that you guys work with year 9s and year 8s. So, like, how will that work? Will they get someone else over there and you here, or will you have to move between campuses?
Well, there's actually another careers practitioner here at the school, and that's Chris Lovelock, and he works with year 7s to 10s.
Oh, okay.
So he's mainly, he works with the junior levels. There is a bit of crossover, of course, and we share an office in the Careers Resource Centre, so students can drop in there. It doesn't matter what year they're in, and either of us will talk to them and help them. So predominantly, it would be mainly Chris would be spending time at the 7 to 9 campuses, but then we've got plans to do some whole school focus events on careers and pathways and things like that, so I'll be involved in those as well.
Yeah.
But generally, if the current structure of the careers staff or the careers centre remains fairly much the same, then we'll be, I'll be still working predominantly here.
Yeah.
But we are also, I think there's going to be still a bit of movement for students and staff amongst the campuses, because we are all a one college.
Do you think that's going to be like a negative impact, like on teachers? Like, do you think they'll get more annoyed having to move between, like maybe not you, but like other teachers who will have, let's say, year 8s in the morning and then at this campus, and then year 7s where they have to go to the precinct?
Yeah, I actually worked at a multi-campus school before, and that was very much a challenge for staff when you have to not only just manage your time, because you've got to be teaching at one campus, jump in your car, transport to the other campus.
Especially if you don't have a car.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
that's another issue too. Particularly, I guess one of the good things is that we're fairly close. All the campuses will be close, so perhaps, and a number of teachers will ride their bikes as well, which is probably going to be a good thing. So, I mean, I think all of those, the movement between campuses is going to be an extra thing for people to adjust to, but I think in the long run, we'll get used to it.
Yeah.
Like you will.
How young do you think students should start to like think about their future and careers and stuff like that?
I think you should start from as soon as you can, and I know that most of you would have, even as you're going through primary school, you would have had your family or your friends saying, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And your knowledge at that time is fairly limited to jobs like, I want a police person or a nurse or a teacher or people that you know about or that you've read stories about, those kinds of roles, or you've seen them on television. But as you grow older and you start to, get to know other people, you're extending the networks, you're talking to other people, finding out or learning about other positions and other roles and things like that. So I think the career development journey really actually starts in primary school, or perhaps even before that. And it's just maybe just a conversation. It doesn't mean you have to go and sit and listen to a lecture or anything, or a presentation. But it's. I think it's. I mean, certainly the department is encouraging career development to begin in primary school, and so obviously it changes. And initially in, say, year 7, it might just be identifying things about yourself and your interests and things that might suit you, not necessarily honing in on a particular career at that stage, but just understanding yourself, which is part of what the early years of career development is about.
So in the VCE exam, if students have, say, a set career that they're good at that subject, they do everything for it, they try their best, they study hard, but in that VCE exam, in that one exam, they're just not themselves that day or something goes wrong and they get a lower mark than they would have liked to. Is there any way for them to still continue that career?
Absolutely, yeah. The structure of the VCE and how the scores and the ATAR and everything are calculated factors in school-assessed coursework as well. So usually it'd be 3 major tasks per semester in each subject, and in each semester that'll make up 25% of the total study score, 25% in the second semester, and then the exams usually about 50%. There's some variation between subjects. So it's not, in fact, when I went to school, it all hinged on your exam. It didn't matter. You had no other, it was 100% on the exam, and that made it really hard, because if you did have a bad day, or if you're, particularly unwell, that was really difficult. But in getting further into your question, if a student doesn't achieve the sort of scores that they want to get into the course, perhaps, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah.
There are lots of pathways, and that's the thing. There's whether or not you even do scored assessments, whether or not you do VCAL, whether or not you get a great ATAR or an ATAR that's not quite high enough to get into the course. There are still what they call pathway courses, and it might mean that you do a different type of degree, degree, or even a diploma that will then feed into that degree, so into the degree of your choice. Yeah. So there's lots of different pathways and opportunities.
And can you redo the test
No.
without doing the year?
No. The VCE exams themselves, they're set at the same time across the whole state. So no matter what school you go to, if you're doing English, everybody in the state's going to be sitting in the exam room at the same time.
But you can't say, take a year off and then sit the exam at the end of the year again?
That's something that's changed over the last few years, that people, students say who didn't perform that well or they didn't pass all of their subjects, they may have opted to repeat Year 12 in some way.
Yep.
But now a lot of the universities and institutions, particularly dual sector institutions like that means or VU, for example, and
Yeah.
RMIT, they have TAFE and university courses.
Yeah.
So rather than a student now repeating Year 12, we usually advise them, or we do advise students
take
to
a
go
TAFE.
into a diploma, and then that diploma will feed into the degree.
That
And
they
often
want to
you'll
take.
get often you'll get credit, and a decent amount of credit for the diploma that you've actually done.
Yeah.
So if you say, for instance, you wanted to do health sciences, a degree in health sciences,
Yeah.
you may not have been able to get into that course based on your original scores. That's a 3-year course, but you could go into a diploma, and that might be a 2-year course, and you may get a whole year off or even more off the degree. So
Yeah.
effectively, it's not that meaning that you're doing back-to-back and lots of you will get credit
Yeah.
for what you've actually studied. So
How do you think parents can help when it comes to children with their career choices?
conversations, definitely, and also taking advantage of the career service that we offer here at Footscray City, or which soon to be Footscray High.
Yeah.
That we are available for parents to come in with their students or their child and have a chat with us as well. We do run parent information sessions. We've got a fantastic careers website just for Footscray. It's footscraycareers.com it's called, and there's lots of information support for parents as well. But I think having conversations with their young people, and also just keeping their ear to the ground, I suppose, in terms of things like when university open days are happening, to go along with their kids to check out what sort of is on offer, because things have changed a lot probably since when
Yeah.
they were at school. And I know a lot of parents go, I don't know what this is all about now, can you explain it? And usually after particularly a meeting with me, they'll feel like they've actually got more of an understanding of what we do and the processes and how to help their kids. So, yeah.
And what kinds of programs do we do here?
What sort of programs?
Like to do with like careers and helping like the children, like helping like the students with like their career choices and like what to like subjects that can support that and stuff.
Okay, well, we at Year 9 and 10, students go on excursions to visit a number of different tertiary institutions.
Yeah.
That's not so much, they're not open days as such, but it's just to sort of get an idea of what it's like to be in the campus grounds, what sort of facilities that they have, and learning a bit about those particular institutions. We take students every year to the big careers expos. We have guest speakers. I take the Year 12 students every year to a tertiary information session, and they have a little mini tertiary institution expos there as well. Course counselling, we have parent information sessions as well. We do presentations to year levels. We have one-on-one career counselling opportunities as well. Generally, I see all Year 12 students about 3 times a year individually for at least 30 minutes. Some students even a lot more than that. So it's very much a personalised approach in that way. It's important that we do have one-on-one conversations with students to help them. So, yeah.
So after Year 12s complete their exams, what happens next apart from, say, schoolies? And what are your opinions on gap years and how they affect careers?
I think gap years are a fabulous idea. They don't have a student doesn't have to take a gap year just after Year 12. They could take a gap year, once they've actually started studying.
Yeah.
They might. So it doesn't have to be something they do straight away. But I think a gap year is giving you some
Time to think.
and working out exactly what it is that you want to do. So even students who are really fairly certain that they know what career they want to go into whilst they're through school, once they actually get it to uni and I am speaking a bit about tertiary study, I know, and then it's not all about tertiary study. Some students just want employment,
Yeah.
where you can get on the job training too, and that's absolutely
And then-
fine. There are students who are interested in trades or traineeships, all of those things. But we just need a bit of time, and I think the nature of career development these days is that we no longer are in a job for the rest of our lives. And like my father worked in the same company for 40 years,
Yeah.
and that's not how it is. The average person is going to have different job every 3 or 4 years. So that things are changing very much. So it might mean that, even just my own journey now, that I was interested in sport and phys ed and health, and now I'm in careers, and I don't even remember having a careers coordinator when I was at school.
Yeah.
So it's just, and my sister is a web designer. Now we didn't even have. I didn't even have computers when I was at university.
Yeah.
So we used to have to borrow a typewriter from the library and type up our papers on carbon paper and things like that. So things have changed. And my sister, she's in her 50s and she's a web designer. And yet we've only had the internet, the World Wide Web, for since the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So that when she was at school in the 70s and 80s, or in the 70s and very early 80s, we had no idea about that, what that was going to be like.
Yeah.
And now she's got it, that's her career. So
We're going to wrap this up in a sec. Are you guys certain about what you want to do in the future?
No.
No, okay. So the question about, if you can ask the question about what happens if I reach the end of my year 12 and maybe in my 20s I still don't know what I want to do. Maybe a question like that for Julie to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Okay,
if
so Jolie, you ask the question.
if we get to like the end of year 12 and everyone's kind of like moving around us and trying to like get jobs in universities and you don't really know what you're going to do, like what do you do like to help create something that I want to do?
Yeah, well, to help to answer that question, I think if you particularly if you're starting now, think about being involved in community, getting some part-time work, because we have talked a little bit about the ATAR as a selection to get into university courses, but universities are actually seeing that retention rates aren't that great, that students maybe in that similar situation, they get through school, they don't really know what they want to do, they choose something, oh that's okay, but no actually I don't like it, and then they drop out.
Yeah.
But universities have researched, and things are indicating that students who are more involved in community have more of an understanding of themselves, get involved in leadership, volunteer work, all those sorts of things, have more of an understanding about what interests them and things about themselves. And they will actually, a lot of institutions will have an early entry scheme so that those sorts of things are acknowledged, and you could get an offer for a course before you even know what your results are.
Yeah.
Because they're valuing that sort of thing. So, and I know it's a big stress for students to think, and the ones that, really struggle with thinking about what they're going to do in the future, they don't even necessarily come and reach out for advice, and that's what I'd be encouraging you to do. Come and talk and have that conversation. If you finish year 12 and it works out that you're not really sure what you want to do, you don't necessarily want to study, maybe get some employment, have a gap year, have travel, and make sure that you always seek advice. Yeah.
What is an ATAR score and why do we need it?
Oh, an ATAR score is a ranking that when you're doing scored assessments and exams in year 12, your results are calculated, and then basically, if you can imagine, everybody with an ATAR score is put on a line between, say, here in Sydney, right, the lowest ATAR and up to the highest ATAR. Universities will use the ATAR often to determine which students they want to have for their course. So they might have 100 positions and they want to take 100 students with the best ATARs that apply for that particular course. Okay, so that's where the ATAR can come into it.
Yeah.
Why do we need it? Well, as I mentioned before, that there are other ways to get into university. So if you don't get that ATAR to get you into a course, you could do a diploma.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, though, an ATAR is not a measure of somebody's intelligence, really. It's about how you perform and you function in that year. And as you know, everyone has a different set of circumstances at home. If you have a regular study routine, You've got a good place to study, you've got supportive teachers and parents and everything, all of those sorts of things, and that motivation and drive as well. But the actual figure of the ATAR does not determine you or define you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are often scared of getting into something such as HECS debt when they go into a university course just to see what it's like. They go, oh, I'll just see what it's like, maybe I'll drop out. But then because the rate of it goes up by the cost of living every year, then they're constantly paying back a debt that keeps growing for the rest of their life just because they took, say, a year of a course that they didn't want to participate in. What are your opinions on trying courses that you don't?
You have to usually pay your course fees, or you're charged for the actual course the parts of the course that you study. So if you only do 1 year of a course, if you do 1 semester of a course, you'll only have that fee.
Yeah.
The HECS debt is a concern in that, people, because there's an opportunity for you to, say, put it on as a loan, so you're not out of pocket straight away. But if you're not careful about making sure that if you do withdraw, that you withdraw from a course before the census date so that you don't get charged for the semester. If you are going to study, that you do make that firm commitment to it. It's very important not to clock up too much of a debt. The other thing is that some of the independent institutions don't get government funding, and they can pretty much charge what they like. So some institutions can charge really, really high fees. So it's important before you start a course to know exactly what your debt's going to be.
And that brings our interview to an end.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, Julie, thanks for joining us. That was Julie Black, Year 11 and 12 Careers and Vet Coordinator at Footscray City College, soon to be Footscray High School. Thanks also to my interview panel today, Yasmin and Jolie. My name is Marley Hawk, and thanks for your company. This has been the Futures Show on Footscray Live.